My name is Sandra Samuels, and I live in North Minneapolis. I first met Don in like 1989, 90. We met at church, and he was a single dad, this adorable single dad who was busy with children's church and children's story. My girlfriends would always get on me because he didn't wear suits, and he had a Toyota Civic, an old one, and he actually wore Mickey Mouse sweaters. When we went to church together, there was a lot of abuse happening, and this is in the early 90s. This is before the Me Too movement. And I watched Don stand with the women in the church who were vulnerable and courageous enough to stand up. And he was literally the only man to do it. So when we moved to North Minneapolis, it was just a given. You speak up and you get engaged, and you encourage others to do the same.
I'm Sade, and I am from North Minneapolis. I was probably 8 or 9 when I met, when Don and Sandra moved next door. I remember like as a young person, them like going out and literally like being in the streets and holding signs and picketing and being like, we are not leaving. We are not in a nice neighborhood at all. And I know that, you know, people have opportunities to leave. And Don and Sandra stayed here, and they're investing not only in like their home and their community, but you know, in the young people that live on the block.
My name is Marcus, and I grew up in specifically North Minneapolis. I spent a lot of time in foster care growing up. My dad passed away from gun violence, and I was about 12 years old when it happened. The Samuels, specifically Don, took the initiative to kind of have a conversation with me about it. The mentorship kind of began from there. Had I not lived with the Samuels, I think that I genuinely probably would have become a product of what we're seeing now in the community in terms of gun violence, gang activities.
Sherman Patterson. I live in North Minneapolis. I met Don over 20 years ago. I saw him on television and stopped the youth violence, the violence in North Minneapolis, and he had a tent outside, and he was actually staying in this tent overnight for I think more than 30 days, and I was just impressed. But he stepped up, he was the voice. Not just being the voice, he was actionable about it. And then when I joined on the team of in 2006 with Mayor Ryback, I was asked to come on board to help them on public safety efforts with law enforcement. Don was the public safety chair, and we came up with youth violence prevention with RT and others from corporate America, also some nonprofits. And we took youth violence down from the homicides are averaging about 50 to 60 a year, but we went down to like 9 homicides a year.
Our neighbors that we live next to, they are the most important people. And we're gonna act like that. We're gonna act like that. We're gonna get outraged if our kids aren't being educated. We're gonna be totally aggrieved if they're dying disproportionately because of community violence, whether it's at the hand of another community member or the police. Like, we're not gonna stand still. This guy has been bucking the system since the time I met him, okay? When George Floyd was murdered, we had a whole prayer tent for people from all different faith backgrounds and traditions. We established the Hope Collaborative. It was a collaborative of nonprofits to address the educational issue. Before he was on school board, he was still on city council, he established the Peace Foundation, for crying out loud.
Think about somebody that came to America, $22 in his pocket. Washing dishes, work visa ran out. Not just a black man, like black immigrant coming from another country. He came from nothing almost, and look at where he's at. People have to realize that we talk about the American dream. He's living the American dream, but he's willing to help others to live that dream and to have that outcome. So that's who Don Samuels is. I'm proud to support Don Samuels in Congress because I know what type of man he is. I know his integrity. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect, but he will be a hell of a congressman.
He didn't give up on his dream. He didn't give up on the African American community. He didn't give up on this country, and still hasn't.